How much do you think you've made in your entire lifetime earnings?
Probably like 30 mil.
Like 30 mil. That's a lot.
It's crazy.
That's crazy.
I'm saying it's crazy.
Today we're gonna meet someone that has made $30 million trading watches. I'm gonna ask them exactly how they got started, how they find the watches, how they sell them, and absolutely everything from A through Z. And later on, I'm gonna ask them if they were to get started today, what would they need to do to make their first $10,000 as quickly as possible? Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and meet this person. So we're back here with PJ. You guys remember PJ from the last video where we went over his Bugatti?
Did you just say Bugatti?
He talked to us a little bit about watch trading and how that was one of the businesses that he has. And so I came back today for him to tell us a little bit about how it works. So PJ, thanks for coming back.
Yeah, I appreciate you always having good discussions.
So I guess to start off, right off the bat, how much money are you gonna make this year from trading watches?
Probably like 2.5.
2.5. And is that like a good year or?
It's a terrible year.
It's a terrible year.
Terrible year. Last year I almost did double that.
So about four.
Yeah.
$4 million.
And the thing is, I'm not even a jewelry store.
You know, I feel like if someone is gonna trade watches or sell watches at that level of, you make 20 grand, you sold one watch, whatever. But to make millions of dollars, I would expect you to need like a storefront and all these things, and you don't have that.
No, I mean, it's a numbers game. So in the watch industry, you can make 10 to 20% per watch. The part where you get better at is not the 10 to 20%. I can teach you how to do that in like 3 days. The part that gets harder, where the gap is between the guys that make multi-million dollars like me to the guys that make 100 grand, is the speed at which I can move truthing. One, it's the forecasting and how much money you carry. Like for example, in my personal watch box here, there's like $1.5 million. But what I do is, if you can take your money, the amount of watches you have for sale, and you can take your total inventory dollar and you go, I'm carrying 100K. Now, if you can hit that 20% margin a month, then later in a week, then that's your speed. You know what I mean? You're replacing inventory at speed. So usually I tell people it's a good year if you make 20% a year on your money, which is better than the average.
In an entire year.
Right, and you got to wear a nice watch, it was cool, whatever. But if you can get good at the game and you can do that a month, well, that's a pretty heavy return. 20% a month times 12, that's heavy, especially once you start getting into large numbers. And the thing is, that money compounds because you put it back in watches. So you don't usually need that kind of money. So when you make it, you put it right back in and you let it compound again. Anyone with $1,500 access to a post office and a computer can start trading watches from anywhere in the world. But obviously 20% of $1,500 isn't gonna be as exciting as 20% on $100,000. So you just have to hedge yourself up and everything else. But if you're good at this game, even starting with $1,500, in 90 days, you can double your money every month, which is pretty significant.
Yeah.
It's significant for someone with very limited capital or something else, correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started? So how long have you been trading watches?
So I started trading watches, I think, since I got my first exotic car. It was a Porsche 911 Turbo. I wanted a matching Panerai, but I bought a Panerai and it was a big purchase for me at the time. It was like a $3,800 purchase and it was a big deal, When I sold my Panerai after wearing it for a year and I was like, oh, I want something better, I made money. And I was like, oh, so how does that work? How did I make money? Why didn't somebody buy it as cheap as I did? And I realized that he had given me a good deal, he was a friend, and there was money to be made. So the same way he buys watches and sells them. So I was like, what if I can duplicate that? So I bought a 6 watch box, and I had a watch box at the time, like a wooden one. It was very funny, it was like $20. And then I put 6 watches in it, and I bought them on Craigslist and this and that, and I started learning from scratch, one watch at a time. Bought it, wore it, took it to work, switched it when someone wanted to buy it, I would buy another one. I really didn't do it as a business, I just did it as a hobby, like 6 watches, put them on, sell them, whatever. The more I did this, the better I got at selling them, so the faster they sold, the less time I had them. And then I realized that there's some income coming in from this, and I was like, this is cool.
What do you think has been the biggest difference between when you started, maybe year 1, year 2, the amount of money that you were making then to you getting to the level where now you're making millions of dollars a year? What do you think has been the biggest shift, whether it's choosing them or the speed at which you can sell them because of something that you've built? What do you think?
They've become more mainstream. It's really that simple. And so you have so many new customers in the pool now. And the watch industry has not upped its volume to match that. So like Rolex has not created 10 times more watches this year to offset the amount of wealth that's in America. Instead, it said, well, we're not really increasing production. So you're gonna have to go to the secondhand market to buy it. So the secondary market for watches has truly become an industry of its own. I mean, 2 years ago, they were saying it's $1 billion industry. They're saying by the 2030, it will be a $35 billion industry. Imagine. Insane curveball, right? Insane.
Can you walk us through like the quick and rundown version of like how much money do you need to start? You said 1,500.
Yeah, 1,500.
Is more better, and where do you find watches, and how do you pick them? There's so many.
So you got to learn where to start, and that's fine. 1,500 is a good number. 5 grand is a better number. So 5 grand, I'm more comfortable saying that you have more options. If you only have 1,500, better to start than not. I have some students that start with 700, you know, like, so it's possible. You have to learn how to buy the watch at the right price, like where to find it, how to negotiate it, and also how to make sure it's not a fake. So we teach you all that step by step in the academy, so you know what to, like, basically how to buy a watch. Then we teach you which ones to buy, like which ones you want to start with, the top 10 ones you want to practice, etc. How do you sell them? Where do you list them? How do you market them? How do you take a photo of them? You know, like which groups you're gonna engage in, converse in, and things like that. And then you're gonna make basically a little system, like an ins and outs. And then the next piece is to basically recycle that system over and over for the next watch, the next watch, the next watch. Luxuries and selling luxuries, the beauty of it is they sell themselves. You don't have to force. Why would someone want to buy an expensive watch? Well, maybe in your environment they don't, but everybody does. It's just a question of getting in front of the right person. So knowing what to buy, how to buy it right, and then where to expose it to people so they want to buy it from you, doesn't require you convincing them to buy it.
How much do you think you've made in your entire like lifetime earnings of trading watches?
Probably
So for last time too?
Probably like 30 mil.
Like 30 mil, that's a lot.
It's crazy.
That's crazy.
I'm saying it's crazy.
Yeah. So tell me about these watches. So you said that this is like $1 million or something?
Yeah, like $1.5 million.
And I could just take this home?
No. Well, you can buy it. I'll sell you this and then I'll go buy more and make more money.
30% less.
No, 20% more. That's how it works. But I'll tell you a little bit about what these are. So these are my personal watches. They're some of the watches that I wear on a kind of on an ongoing basis. This is the same watch you have on your wrist. Yeah. This is the AP Brick. Rhodium dial, rare dial, but pretty cool. You know, really nice watch. John Mayer Daytona, very famous Daytona with the green dial and yellow gold. The John Mayers are about 70. They were originally 38,000. These have gone up as high as 130, and then they dropped down.
So used is double what it is new.
Correct, always. That's how it works.
And
with
it's
rare
because
watches.
you can't get it new.
So if you look here, this is the yellow gold green. This is a brand new thing from Rolex. They offered in 22. Yeah, super, super nice day date. Yellow gold green, super, super rare. And this is the new Daytona Platinum Baguette. This is going to get discontinued soon. This watch will skyrocket. It's like a $80,000 MSRP watch. It's used like 130K. And it's gonna go up to like 200. My favorite watch of all time, the Openwork AP41. This is the skeletonized Royal Oak, one of the hardest to get watches. This watch new was about like 100 all in, you know, with taxes, and now used is about 250. That at some point, yeah, last year when the market was at its highest point, this watch was about 350, 400. This is the Patek 5980 1R.
I love this one. Like out of all of these.
Yeah, this is a very nice watch. Like it's probably one of my favorite Pateks too. Like super nice, super classy, like very young and money at the same time. This was about 100K new too, and it's now about 250K. And this is the exact same watch, except you can see the dial color is different because it's not the bracelet one. It's the strap one, so this is a more casual version. This is a really rare watch called the 5968G. This is the new Aquanaut white gold green dial. Very, very hard to get, new from Patek. This is 68K new, used about 150 now. It used to be as high as 280.
And then what are you wearing? That's Richard Mille?
That's a Richard Mille RM55 Bubba Watson. This is the made after the Bubba Watson golfers, about 100K MSRP, 350K.
And it reached the high of what, like the 350?
No, so what's actually funny is RM didn't really move that much. So this was a discontinued RM. So once watches get discontinued, they don't fluctuate in values anymore. They kind of steadily go up. They're almost in a place where you can't replace it anymore, so there isn't a lot of supply in the market coming back. So they do really well. But this is a discontinued RM. This is one of the most wanted RMs too. Very few production units, so like very hard to get, even in the secondary market. At their peak, they were 400. They're down, they're like 320, 350. So like, it's not that, you know, it's a 20% drop versus some of the stuff dropped 30, 40%, and then it's still 200% of its value. But these RMs held better than I think any of the watches, especially the heavier stuff.
What are your favorite watches from like a value perspective? Like watches that you know that always give you the highest percentage of profit. Is there such a thing?
Yeah, so really when you start, I think these are what we call market value watches. They're dangerous when you start because the values can fluctuate and can move. Typical watches like Panerai, Hublot, Breitlings, the stuff you see at the mall, you know, in boutiques. Hublot, Panerai have always done historically very well for 20% returns. They're very easy to move watches. They're hated by wholesalers, which is fantastic because it creates a market for the end, like reselling to end users. It's just a good watch to go after for that margin without the risk of like, man, I'm holding it too long, the market might shift, or what if it doesn't go up and it goes down? So those watches, in the recession, they haven't moved. In the upswing, they didn't move. You know, they kind of stayed in their place, and they don't really have an up, down, up, down, up, down kind of scenario going on.
Cool. Listen, man, thanks a lot for having us. Thanks
my
for sharing
pleasure.
the value.
Appreciate it.
Where can they find you if they want to learn more about you, you know, trading watches and everything that you have going on?
So listen, learnfrompj.com, a good place to go to see all my offerings in terms of what you can learn from me. But watchtradingacademy.com is a really good place to learn about watches. Exoticcarhacks.com, a really good place to go learn about exotic cars and how they all intertwine together into alternative assets.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
I appreciate it.